Hi. Today we're going to be looking at another passage in the 12 passages for personal growth, Reparenting Our Inner Child, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe established as the basis for teaching children, educating children, and as I have suggested, for us to begin to access our own inner world and build ourselves on a solid foundation so that we can function in a more holy, true and effective way in our daily lives. Today's passage is one that we are all familiar with. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Literally in Hebrew, that is actually part of a sentence. It's a phrase which is in the beginning of the creation of the heavens and the earth. And then there's another verse in the Torah which tells us there was the state of chaos, darkness, a void on the face of the deep. But let's look at the passage as it exists independently first, and then as it exists in connection with the second verse in the Torah. Why is it important to tell a child, for us to tell ourselves, the world has a creator? Obviously, because if there is a creation, it means that there is a purpose. A person can walk around in this world and say, well, solid earth theory, the world has existed forever. Logically, I don't quite understand how that makes sense. Today, people don't subscribe to that, and even the Big Bang Theory speaks about a beginning. There was this moment that was a Big Bang. It just doesn't go back to that instant before the Big Bang, which is, where did that come from? Where did all of that originate? So we want to inculcate in our consciousness this world has a beginning. And I want to share something. We tend to think of the world, we've been taught, many of us, that the world has existed for millions and millions of years. That kind of distances us from our Creator, from our purpose. When we say to ourselves, well, today we can say the world is 5,770 years and a couple of months old. That puts us in a very different position from someone who says the world is millions of years old. I have a friend who actually became observant and got involved in studying as a result of finding out how old the world was. She went to a class and the rabbi said the world is 5,760x years old. And she was so astonished that there was this short, contracted period of time between us and the beginning. It made her feel more powerful. It made her feel more important. It made her feel more connected to God. And she couldn't get over the fact that Jews have a tradition that says exactly how many years, months, weeks, days, and hours old the world is. So we could say to ourselves, well, how many generations between me and the giving of the Torah? And someone is likely to say thousands of generations. Well, it's thousands of years, but it's not thousands of generations. It's 150, 175, depending on how you counted generations back. So when we contract this time, it makes us closer to God, and that capsule gives us a sense of real focus. This verse is also about purpose. It tells us what the purpose of creation is and what our personal role in that creation is. So as I mentioned, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth is actually to be rephrased as in the beginning of the creation. What was going on? There was darkness on the face of the deep. Chassidut, Kabbalah explains that there is this genesis, this point of departure. Bereshis is connected to the word Rosh, head. Beginning in consciousness, the beginning of our own awareness of existence. For God, nothing is new. Creation is a manifestation for us, for the recipient. We come into existence and almost automatically we are thrust into a realm of darkness. So if you're a little baby, That darkness might just be you're hungry and your mother's not available to nurse you. And as you grow, there are different challenges, and they become sometimes more complex as we grow older, because we also become more self-deceptive. Our ego and our language changes. So we don't really have access to, oh, I'm hungry, or I'm jealous, or I'm upset. Whatever the circumstance is, we are thrust into the choshech al pnei tehom, this darkness that is hovering on the face of the deep. However, what is important for us, essential for us to remember, is God goes through this creation of the first day, and then we are told, Vayehi or, that He made light. And that this light was pleasant to God. It was good to God. The purpose of creation, Bereshis, is through the challenge, through that darkness, I will come to a state of light. That means I almost have to change the way I deal with my challenges. I have to embrace those challenges. To say, God, thank you for the darkness on the face of the deep. Can I humble myself in that place of darkness so that I can take the lesson? Because my whole purpose here is to become closer to my Creator, to move away from this delusion that I exist separately from Him, to bind myself with His essence. And I can only do that when I embrace this journey from creation, darkness on the face of the deep, be present to that, know that this is a gift that God is giving me in order to become close to Him. And that shift in perspective actually generates the light that we are trying to create. The Rebbe Rashab, who was the previous Rebbe's father, was once asked by a chassid, what is a chassid? And his answer was, a chassid is a lamplighter. And he went on to elaborate that when you're lighting lamps, you don't light lamps in the daytime. You light a lamp when it's dark at night. You have to go out. I always have this image of being in Boston and seeing those old lamps in the city being lit. That people used to go out and actually light the lamps so that people managed to walk in the dark at night. We have to go out and light lamps, bring luminosity and clarity to people, because you see, light is not a tangible thing that I'm going to add to a room. It's not like bringing in a chair, but it changes everything. I bring in light. And then the Rebbe said, even if someone is lost in a desert, you have to go out into the desert in order to save that person, to help the person, bring the light into the barren place of the desert. And that could mean a person is in their own personal barrenness, their own landscape, feeling lost. We have to go and reach out to that person. And I would say reach out to ourselves, because many times we are lost in that landscape. Reach out and bring light. This is the mission of Bereshis, that I have to generate a whole new world in this world. And lastly, the Rebbe said, and even if that person is in the ocean, is lost and forlorn in the ocean, you have to take the light there, which seems to be a diametric opposite. How do you take fire into the ocean, into water, and isn't it dangerous? Aren't we endangering our life? That's the extent. It illustrates the extent to which we have to be committed to this mission of Bereshis that is outlined in this week's passage. The word Bereshit is an unusual word. We would expect the Hebrew word to be betchila, at the beginning, but the word that is used is Bereshit, and it can be broken up into two parts. One is the letter bet, which has the numerical value of 2. And then the word Reshit, which is heads, 2 heads. The world was created for 2 heads, for 2 purposes. One is for the Jewish people, and the other is for the sake of the Torah. This does not mean in any way that we can dismiss the nations of the world. In fact, it's talking about a unique kind of service. The Jewish people are expected to really get to work, pick themselves up, and do that inner work and the outer work, using the Torah in order to transform this world where we find darkness hovering on the face of the deep. And sometimes it's really dark and really deep, and we have to bring light. Obviously, every human being contributes to bringing light in this world. The Jewish people have a unique tool, which is the Torah. So it doesn't mean when we say, oh, the world was created for two heads, that I can sit back, relax, give me everything that I want. No, this is a mission statement. Be a lamplighter. We have to pick ourselves up and create a new world, the kind of world that God is looking for, that will be manifest with the coming of Mashiach.